Right now, I want to go to actually a clip we hit yesterday in the second segment, but I wanted to hit it in the first segment. And it's Bob Schieffer. Why do you have this thing for Bob? Is it because he wears a trench coat? You just like trench coats, kind of like the look? Well, he's not wearing a trench coat here. Easy. He's on Face the Nation. He's old school journalism. And old school journalism has liberal bias, especially when asking Marsha Blackburn about not supporting the Paycheck Fairness Act, which would, in fact, increase the government's power and trial lawyers specifically open the door to a variety of lawsuits. I'll get to that in a second. Here is the exchange heard this past weekend. Roll it.
Let me ask you about this debate over equal pay for women.
Sure.
There was a lot of debate on that last week. Finally, Republicans blocked it in the Senate. Are Republicans against equal pay for women, and is that going to be a good political issue in these coming midterm elections?
You know, I find this war on women rhetoric just almost silly. It is Republicans that have led the fight for women's equality. Go back through history and look at who was the first woman to ever vote, elected to office, go to Congress.
But why
did
the Senate Republicans then block this?
Never really listening to the full exchange, and the full exchange should be, check out her answer. She's actually been speculated as a potential candidate for 2016. And if you listen to her interviews and the way she handles those types of questions, yeah. Now, because you don't support federal action and a federal law that would increase the ability for trial lawyers to go after companies, well, what are they going after them for? Article by Dan Mitchell last year, where he cites Dan Mitchell, the Cato Institute, Christina Hoff Sommers, U.S. News and World Report. Quote, the misnamed Paycheck Fairness Act is a special interest bill for litigators and aggrieved women's groups. A core provision would encourage class action lawsuits and force defendants to settle the threat of uncapped punitive damages. Employers would be liable not only for intentional discrimination, banned long ago, parentheses, but for lingering effects of past discrimination. What does that mean? Employers have no idea. Census data from 2008 show that single, childless women in their 20s now earn 8% more on average than their male counterparts in metropolitan areas. Now, if you take a whole host of statistics, you'll see that the pay gap is a function of statistics being manipulated without context. A wonderful piece by Thomas Sowell today in Investors Business Daily where he cites his original work, and I believe that is well, you got to check out Thomas Sowell's work. It is a wonderful book, and he cites it in this particular study, but this was what he calls statistical fraud. The author of Basic Economics, and it was the follow-up book. But the book, the reason I want to tell you the name of the book is because I want you to have the resource, and that's something that is important for all of us. And his book is Economic Facts and Fallacies. But this is what is manipulated to turn women into a victim class and increase the ability for trial lawyers to go after companies. What does that increase? Business expense. No. Discrimination, as stated by Christina Hoff Sommers in that article in U.S. News and World Report in 2010, intentional discrimination banned long ago. It's interesting because I think to myself, when we talk about these issues, The war on women, I want you to know what the truth is. I don't, if there is a war on women, wow, I want to go after it. Look at the war on women, look at the Muslim world. That's yeah, second-class citizens. But I digress. Why would you say that, Crane? It's inflammatory. I say things because I want to recognize that it is true. And I recognize, and I know you recognize, that doesn't mean all Muslims, and that doesn't mean Muslims living in the United States. It means the fact that we do have women being mistreated in the world, and I will highlight where when given the opportunity. Well, we could go in the United States, we could look at Planned Parenthood. Again, highlight where. I love the truth. Do you love the truth? I love the truth. Go to my Facebook page, weigh in on a couple questions that will become even more relevant in the next segment when you are making a phone call to me and answering the question. Facebook page is Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, proudly on AFR Talk. American Family Radio, Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Please like my page. I just want you to engage. It's all the rage. One more rhyme and I'm Jesse Jackson. I'll stop. Let's keep moving. And we go to another point of discussion, which has been the use of race and blaming race either by naming it or not naming it. Brit Hume took the gloves off when it came to the cries of racism that he interpreted from Eric Holder and President Obama. Attorney General Holder, speaking to the National Action Network, never specifically said it. But Brit Hume addressed it on Fox News Sunday. Roll it. And, pardon me, why don't we talk about the DCC, the Democratic campaign chairman, because that's Steve Israel. Israel pointing to race. See, when it gets to race, I get all jumbled. Let's stick with the lineup because these are in order for a reason. My apologies. The great Lene filling in for Jeremy. Thank you, Cedra, for the update. Yes, this is Steve Israel. And he made a charge this past week. But before you hear that charge, you hear Nancy Pelosi lying about what she heard about Republicans. Steve Israel then says, not all Republicans are racist, but there are racist Republicans, and it's part of the base. Well, why don't we allow the man to say it like he did to Candy Crawley on Sunday? Roll it.
I think race has something to do with the fact that they're not bringing up an immigration bill. I've heard them say to the Irish, for just you, this would be easy.
Do you agree with that?
Look, the American people want solutions in Congress. They want people to oppose certain policies for the right reasons.
Do you think your Republican colleagues are racist?
Not all of them, no, of course not. But to a significant extent, the Republican base does have elements that are animated by racism, and that's unfortunate.
Well, it is interesting. Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee Chair Steve Israel thinks that way. When it comes to immigration, one, Nancy Pelosi lied. She didn't have a source for it. She was questioned about it. Wonderful work over at the American blog. The American blog, and I'm trying to gather the name. I'm seeing the name, and I read this to you on Friday. Citing work, just want you to know that, yes, we do back up what we say and can, because we're not going to be making these statements without being able to back them up, like Nancy Pelosi did about the Irish and immigration reform. How disgusting is that? Incidentally, I love how President Bush responded to Kanye West regarding racism when Bush was not happy and called him out and said, he called me a racist. See, when people call other people a name like that, it is disgusting. Oftentimes, laugh it off. I've been called it before. Hey, it happens, and I kind of say, oh, whatever. You don't know what you're talking about. But there is great offense in that. Calling me somebody who would like to burn small T's on somebody's lawn, I don't recognize them as crosses, and I have to go home and brush my tooth. No, I don't play that game. I can't stand those people and their ideas. And if they were a major movement in any way, I'd go after them on a regular basis. They're not, but they are used to smear people who stand up for marriage, people who stand up for life, and people who stand up for being judged by the content of your character as opposed to the color of your skin. So if there is racism, one way or another, we're going to go after it. We're going to nail it because it has no place. If there is hate, like the Westboro Baptist Church, we're going to call it out. Because it's important to erase and challenge and then erase those false narratives that are attempted to be ascribed to people like you, people like me, who simply want to have an honest conversation and are continuously harassed by those who distort and use political correctness to silence their ideological foes. I think we can all get along, but that means we've got to have the honest conversation and not be bullied into silence. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, the truth about the tax code and your phone calls. Flip side, AFR Talk.